On today's episode, we are going to take a look at two growth stocks. Right now, I am trying to search for new companies to invest in. So I'm using a screener right now to find companies that have future potential in analyst expectations for revenue growth and also ones that have a strong current balance sheet. So the two we're going to take a look at today is Trade Desk and Digital Turbine. So Trade Desk might be known to a lot of people, but I think Digital Turbine is such a small company that it might be under the radar for a lot of people. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Alright, so the first business we're going to take a look at is the Trade Desk. We're going to take a look at the price performance. After that, we're going to take a look at the expected growth. We're going to take a look at what they do, financial history, and just some recent articles for the business. And we're going to do this for both Trade Desk and Digital Turbine. Alright, so first let's take a look at the price performance. We'll take a look from February 20th. Trade Desk has actually gone up about 31% from February 20th, and that's the date I choose because that's when the market pretty much started tanking. The market cap for Trade Desk right now is about 19 billion. And before we go any further, guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up, and the bell. It helps the small channel out so much, and I truly appreciate the support. If you guys ever want to get in contact with me, YouTube comments is a good place, but also I'm very active on Twitter and on the Discord channel, which is free to all my viewers. Feel free to come in. There's a lot of great investors there that are just discussing ideas. Also, let me know on the comments below, what video do you guys want me to do tomorrow? Right now, there's not any strong earnings. Usually I do earnings, but if you guys want me to do an in-depth video, I was thinking maybe of Nvidia, maybe I'll do a full in-depth video of Nvidia. I can also do two more growth companies, just like what I'm gonna do today, or maybe the top cloud stocks that I'm invested in right now. So let me know in the comments below which one you guys want me to do next. All right, now that we took a look at Trade Desk stock price performance, let's take a look at the forecasted annual earnings growth and forecasted annual revenue growth. So the number I'm going to give you right now is the annual growth number for the next 3 to 5 years. So for the next 3 to 5 years, Trade Desk is expected to grow an average of 22.3% in revenue per year for the next 3 to 5 years, where the industry Trade Desk is in is only expected to grow 12.4% per year for the next 3 to 5 years, and the market is expected to grow 9.1%. Now we can see in revenue, Trade Desk revenue is expected to grow at a faster rate than the industry and way above the market's expected growth. All right, next let's take a look at forecasted annual earnings growth. Remember, this is the annual growth for the next 3 to 5 years. So the company is expected to grow 33.7%. The overall industry is expected to grow 17.2%, and the market is expected to grow 22.6%. So we can see Trade Desk is expected to beat the market and the industry in both annual earnings growth and annual revenue growth for the next 3 to 5 years, and by a long shot in both of them. All right, so next let's take a look at what the Trade Desk does, and the best place to do that is obviously the company website. You can see everything in the About Us, and you can even check the product section to see what type of services they provide. So right here I have it highlighted. The Trade Desk empowers buyers at the campaign level with the most expressive bid capabilities in market, full funnel attribution, and detailed reporting that gives you more insight into your audience from initial impression to conversion by maintaining a pure buy-side focus. The Trade Desk delivers on branding and performance for clients worldwide. So the Trade Desk is pretty much this huge advertisement business, but it's the way they provide the advertisement business that makes them different from other competitors. They say that they are one of the most in-depth in the information they provide and just the services they provide as well. So if you go to the products, they do multi-channel type of advertisement. They do connected TV advertisement, they do audio advertisement, mobile advertisement, native advertisement, and video advertisement. So let's say you're listening to music, and right after the music, that advertisement that plays after you're listening to that selected song or that selected genre of music, the Trade Desk helps the advertiser make sure to target you based on what you listen. So like I mentioned, right, they do omni-channel targeting. So they do from TV to audio to mobile to native to video. They also do data management platform, which gains insight about the audience with lookalike modeling. So let's say you want to advertise. Let's say you're a big company and you want to advertise something, and this might be the first time you're advertising this product. The Trade Desk has some form of other products that might be similar to yours to help you develop the correct type of audience that you want to look for. Again, another thing they mention is they're really big with the amount of information they provide to the advertisers. And I think this is actually a pretty cool business, especially because right now, the main way of advertisement was through commercials, TV commercials, but a lot of people are no longer watching TV. We're streaming shows, we're listening to podcasts, we're listening to music, we're using our phones on a daily basis. So now the advertisements need to hit us in these products that we're using, in these channels that we're using to collect our information. So I do think this is a great product that they have. I'm not sure how bullish I am at the moment, but let's continue to find out to see more about this company. So next, let's take a look at revenue growth for Trade Desk. Revenue growth in 2019 was 38.5%. In 2018, it was 54.86%. And in 2017, it was 51.9%. So close to 52%. So we can see in the past 3 years, Trade Desk has shown strong revenue growth with over double digits, close to 40 to 50% every year. And on average for the next 3 to 5 years, this company is expected to grow. What did we mention? It's expected to grow 22% on average for the next 3 to 5 years. All right, so next let's take a look at their gross margins. And typically when they are a huge growth revenue like we see here, we expect the gross margins to usually be low, and profit margins and gross margins to be low and improve over time. But gross margins for Trade Desk are about 100%. So they don't really spend any money, it seems, to producing the product, right? This is a software company and they don't really need to create anything. So I can understand why gross margins are 100%. The one that is really important is profit margins. Profit margins for 2019 were 16.4%. For 2018 was 18.5%, and for 2017 was 16.5%. So it does seem like profit margins has not seen a growth throughout the past 3 years. So it seems like as revenue continues to grow, they're not really going to see much of a change in their margins. That's okay, right? Because this company is already making money. A 16.4% is not bad. Now let's take a look at Trade Desk balance sheet, and this is very important. You want to make sure when investing in a revenue company, this is how when I invest in a heavy growth company, I want to make sure that they have a strong balance sheet, because normally they don't have profitable margins at the moment. Trade Desk is a bit different. It is a heavy revenue grower, but is already making money for investors. So that's a great thing. This shows that Trade Desk has $350 million in non-current debt, and it has $22 million in current debt. So in total, Trade Desk has about somewhere around $370 million in debt. This company has about $325 million in cash and $120 million in current investments. So that's about $450 million in cash, which is more than enough to pay off its total debt. So that's a good thing. This is definitely a strong balance sheet for Trade Desk. Next, I wanted to take a look at who are the top shareholders for Trade Desk. And this is actually something I really like to see. The number one top owner of this company, and this is something I really like to see. The number one top shareholder for Trade Desk is Jeffrey Green, and he is the CEO and the founder of Trade Desk. So when you have someone like that still holding a huge portion of the portfolio of the company, I find it as a bullish scenario, and I just wanted to let that be known. The rest are pretty much just investment groups. The second is actually the Vanguard group. So Jeffrey even has more than the Vanguard group. All right, so now let's take a quick look at their most recent earnings. So their most recent earnings, the only really thing I want to take a look at is their most recent revenue was up 32% compared to the same time last year, which is pretty in line what we have seen in the past revenue growth, and it's also above what the average revenue growth is expected for the next year for Trade Desk. So remember how when we were talking about what Trade Desk does, we mentioned some of the products they do, where they do advertisement in mobile, in TVs, in audio. Right here, they kind of broken down the overall revenue growth they experienced in those platforms. In total mobile, which includes in-application video and web, it grew 38% compared to the same time last year. Their biggest growth there came from mobile video, which grew about 74%. Then in TV, connected TV, they grew 100% compared to the same time last year. And in audio, they grew about 60% compared to the same time last year. Another thing they mentioned is the customer retention rate remains over 95%. And that's actually pretty strong. And it has been throughout the past 5 years. That retention rate seems to be around the high 90%. So that's actually really strong. If the Trade Desk is able to keep all those customers, it's just going to continue to build up its revenue machine. In the most recent earnings, they did mention that they partner with some great companies in Asia. For example, they partner with TikTok. So now using Trade Desk, you can use Trade Desk to put your advertisements in TikTok, depending on what you want to show, right? They've also partnered with Samba TV, which is the leading provider of consumers cross-screen televisions in Australia. So I think that's actually pretty smart how they are expanding internationally. All right, so next let's take a look at Trade Desk valuation, right? So right now here we have two things: the forward PE ratio and the forward price to sales ratio. For Trade Desk, this is more of a growth stock, so I would be more comfortable valuing it basis on the forward price to sales ratio, because a forward PE ratio wouldn't make sense and would just give some crazy valuation. So forward price to sales ratio for Trade Desk is 19.7 for 2 years from now. 19.7 might be a little bit high, but let's think about what we're buying, right? We're buying a company that has strong revenue growth, right? We're seeing 50%, close to 50% for the past 3 years. We're seeing Trade Desk have enough cash to pretty much pay off its total debt. We're seeing one that has positive profitable margins and still growing, right? If you have profitable margins right now and you're continuing to grow, that money is going to come even larger in the future, right? Because you're already profitable. So that's another good thing. And the final bullish thing that I find about Trade Desk is that the CEO and the founder is still the top holder of this company. And I think that's actually pretty impressive, and it says a lot. But right now, I might not be that bullish in the overall market of things right now. I do think advertisement in the audio, in applications is very important. But I feel for me, right, just for me, there might be some other products, some other market. Like, you know, if you guys have been watching my channel, I'm very bullish in esports, I'm very bullish in cloud, I'm very bullish in certain technology, in certain components of technology that deal with those sectors. I'm not saying that this market that Trade Desk is in is a bad market. I'm just a bit more bullish in those other markets right now. So based on this valuation, I wouldn't sell any of my positions to enter in this. But if I did want to diversify my portfolio, I do think Trade Desk would be one. Like I said, right, this advertisement business is one that I am bullish on, but not one that I'm more bullish in my other compared to my other positions. All right, so the second business we're gonna take a look at is Digital Turbine, and this is also one that deals with advertisements similar to the Trade Desk, but this one is a lot smaller than the Trade Desk. And maybe for obvious reasons, right? This is probably, it's nowhere near the league that Trade Desk is in, but let's take a closer look. So right now, the market cap for apps, the ticker is APPS for the podcast listeners. And for Trade Desk, the ticker is TTD. So apps right now, Digital Turbine has a market cap of about $1 billion. And since February 20th, this company has actually gone up a nice amount. It has gone up 63%. So what has driven that type of growth for Digital Turbine? And that's what we're gonna find out. So first, let's take a look at the expected revenue growth. So for the next 3 to 5 years, revenue for turbines is expected to go 21%. On average, and that beats the market, which is 9.1%, and that beats the industry, which is 12.4%. Trade Desk actually has higher revenue expectations than Digital Turbine, which I find actually pretty interesting. Normally you find the business with smaller market cap to have a higher chance of growing faster in revenue. Next, if we take a look at earnings growth for the next 5 years is expected to be 27.3% on annual basis, where the market is 22.6 and the industry is 17.2. Again, Trade Desk actually beats Digital Turbine in this as well, in both earnings and expected revenue growth for the next 3 to 5 years. So now let's find out what Digital Turbine and how it differs from the Trade Desk. Normally, instead, we know where in Trade Desk you work with certain platforms. With Digital Turbine, you actually work with the OEM, and that's probably the best way to explain it, right? So you know how we were talking about Trade Desk. With Trade Desk, they partner with TikTok, for example, an application already. They partnered with that other TV application already. Here, you don't go through the application. You actually work with the true OEM company. So let's say Samsung, right? Samsung has plenty of TVs. Samsung has plenty of phones. Verizon is another one of their customers. So with Verizon, who has, again, a lot of phones, they do a lot of operations for phones. They have AT&T, which again is phone providers, TV providers. So Digital Turbine helps you work directly with the OEM. So instead, let's say you want to have a game and you don't want to advertise that game in an application. Instead, for example, when you turn on your TV, some of those games are pre-installed already. So that's what Digital Turbine is doing. It's working to have some pre-installed games, some pre-installed applications already in when you turn on your TV, when you turn on your phone, when you turn on your device. And then there might be OEM specified applications, right? Samsung might have an application itself, and you might see advertisement there as well. So that's pretty much where Digital Turbine comes in and how it works. I actually like this one a lot better because I think more people want to be in the front run of things when for example, when you pick up a TV, the first few applications that you have there, most of the time you're not gonna uninstall them because you believe those are the applications that are needed on your TV. Those are the applications that are needed on your phone. Again, this is just my opinion, and I do fancy Digital Turbine a bit more for that reason. So if you click here on their different types of products, they actually tell you what they do, right? They have different types. For example, in the home screen, they can put stuff in the web portal, in the discovery toolbar. They have a -1 screen. On notifications, you might get some notifications on some games you might install or some top applications. That's where Digital Turbine comes in. They are the people that annoy you when you think you got a text from your friend. No, you didn't get a text from your friend. You got a notification from one of these applications telling you to download their game. They have different stuff like turnkey solution. This one is patent, and this one they talk about. It's called single tap installs, where you can just, again, simply just with a single tap install the application. And they also do a form of media management to kind of see some form of reporting. But I do think the Trade Desk right here, if we take a look at mobile advertisement, they have the similar types of products here. And they do mention that right now, the Trade Desk, Rubicon, PubMatic, OpenX are actually customers of Digital Turbine in some way or another. And I actually find that pretty cool to know that big companies like that are actually using Digital Turbine. Again, Digital Turbine is much smaller than Trade Desk that we saw, but it is pretty cool. Here they have some case studies. Again, one of the great places to go to learn more about a company is just taking a look at their website and just taking a look about us. Here, if we take a look at Jam City, Jam City is a gaming software company, and they talk about how they helped out Jam City. So they did by native app preloads. So native app preloads are a form of unique paid media where applications are seamlessly and dynamically delivered to new Android devices at the time of activations. Because brands are able to preload their applications on the targeted new device, there is a stronger likelihood that the application will be discovered, clicked on, and used at a much higher rate than other forms of paid media. And this, like I mentioned, right, this is why I'm a little bit more bullish on this market opposed to Trade Desk. Again, Trade Desk is a monster in itself that we have seen, but I am personally liking Digital Turbine a bit more. All right, so now let's take a quick look at some of the financials and some of the articles that are going around on Digital Turbine. The first thing, their most recent earnings were on June 2nd. They reported a 45% jump in revenue. That's only 39.4 million for the quarter. Again, we can see this is a very small company, but 45% growth is pretty good, right? On average, it seems like Digital Turbine is gonna make a little bit less than $200 million a year. The second thing that I thought was pretty interesting about them is that last year, Verizon and AT&T were over 85% of their revenue. Right now, for this year, it dropped down to 67%. And that's, to me, a very bullish thing. The first thing is I don't like to see that two customers are such a huge portion of their revenue. But what I do like to see is that the dependency of those customers has gone down, right? 85% last year, and now they only account for 67%. This year they added a new American Mobile, which is I think it is an international type carrier, and now that carrier represents 11% of Digital Turbine's revenue. They are actually also doing strong acquisitions to really move their brand. The company recently acquired Mobile Pose, a mobile content discovery and advertisement platform. So again, this is what you like to see. You like to see acquisitions that make sense. And this to me is an acquisition that actually that makes sense, right? It's a no-brainer. The final thing I want to mention is revenue from international partners grew 80% in the quarter and now represent 20% of the application's business revenue compared to 9% last year. Digital Turbine was one of the best performing stocks in 2019, and if things can grow, I can see it being one of the best of 2020 as well. So now let's take a look at historical growth for Turbine. In 2020, in the last year, in the most recent year, right, for the most recent earnings, they grew 33%. In 2019, they grew 38%, and in 2018, they grew 85%. So very strong growth, and I do believe we're gonna continue to see that growth. One thing I did forget to mention though is they're only in Android devices. They're not in Apple devices right now. And I don't think they're gonna, I think Apple has their own thing that you will never see them work with. I wouldn't say never, but the chances of them working with an Apple product will be pretty low. Next, let's take a look at their margins. This is more like a growth company that we normally see. First thing I'm seeing is profit margins have increased throughout the past 3 years. This year they were profitable and they made 10% profit margins. I'm also seeing an increase in gross margins. Gross margins this year were 38.7% compared to 2 years ago was 33.5%. Profit margins 2 years ago were negative 70.7%. So we are seeing that strong gross margin growth and that strong profit margin growth. Next, let's take a look at their liability distribution and their asset distribution. They have about $20 million if we add the 18 million in non-current debt and about 1 million in current debt. So they have close to $20 million in total debt. They do have about $21 million in cash. So again, this might not be the strongest balance sheet ever, but they have enough cash to pretty much pay off all their total debt, which is a good thing for me. I do wish that cash ratio was a little bit higher. Now let's take a look at their top shareholders. Unfortunately, not like the Trade Desk, their CEO or their founder is not a major top 10 holder. They are some of the directors. The CEO and director is actually one of the top 25 holders. They owned 1.8%. And then we also see the independent chairman of the board, who is also a chairman of the board, hold 1.04%. So I think that is bullish, but it's not as bullish as the Trade Desk. All right, so the final, before we take a look at valuation, I want to take a look at their earnings call transcript. I actually learned a lot about them reading their transcript, and I highlighted a question I found pretty interesting. And the question that stood out to me pretty much says discuss this. Something that stood out to me was the strength in your new devices added, especially with some of the larger telephone companies in the United States talking about 30% declines on new ads. So I was trying to understand a little maybe how the breakouts between the US market's potential decline versus the growth international. So right, due to COVID-19, there has been a decrease in mobile devices sales. So this what do we call them? Not advisor. This analyst that is dealing with this company wants to know how did they see a huge growth in new devices when the overall market is going down. And Bill Stone, which I think is the CEO, mentioned this. There's still a penetration story out there. So given the fact that we only own 60% of the Android devices here in the United States and only 10 to 15% in the global market, even if devices slowdown continues to decrease, they're still going to see a growth in their business. And I thought that was actually something important. This is a very, very bullish sentiment. But even in the current environment, the fact that we added 150 million devices for the fiscal year compared to the 100 million in the prior year show that their market is still growing at crazy levels. And there is no show of slowdown, right? You would expect 100 million devices last year and 150 million devices this year. This is actually one that I'm going to keep an eye on. And if I do have certain money, I do believe this might be a company I might invest in. Let's just take a quick look at valuation. So this company actually has a decent forward PE ratio for March 22nd. They have a forward PE ratio of 25.65. For a growth company, that's actually pretty impressive. I'm actually liking that a lot. Now, if we take a look at forward price to sales ratio, the forward price to sales ratio for apps is 4. It's about 4 compared to the trade desk, which is, what was it? I think 20? Yes, which was 20. But again, what are we seeing different here? The trade desk is expected to grow at a higher revenue and earnings compared to apps. So that's the first reason that trade desk is more expensive. Trade desk is more defined, right? They're already more stable, if you could say. They've been positive for the past 3 years, where Digital Turbine has only been profitable for the last year. So these are things the balance sheet for trade desk is a lot better than that of Digital Turbine. So that's the reason the trade desk is a bit more expensive when we take a look at the valuation, right? You always got to understand why one is worth a bit more than the other. And it's just the overall state of the business. The trade desk seems to, the way analysts are expecting, are seeing more growth there. But to be honest, I am liking the Digital Turbine a lot more. And this is one that I'm going to have, definitely keep my eye on. And maybe when money comes in for me, I invest every Friday. If the stock has not jumped up dramatically since then, I'm still debating, but I'm going to sleep on investing in this. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Like always, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the bell. It helps the small channel out so much, and I truly, truly appreciate the support. Take care, guys, and have a good night.